Crystal Tower information, Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Nancy 53 on Over Tower, Roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Archer 71143, flying 5, runway 280 left, quick takeoff, left hand south first.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
Welcome, everybody, to the Flying Midwest podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andrew, known around here as the Badger Pilot, joined by my co-hosts, Jim. Hello, Jim.
Hello.
And Maddie. Hey, Maddie.
Howdy.
I want to start off by discussing some shenanigans that's taking place in the aviation podcast community. How do we feel about this? Because I'm just going to throw this out there. First and foremost, this started last night when we were listening to the Midlife Pilot podcast, when they closed out and they said that they were signing off episode 102 of the Midwest Flying, and then, wait, that's not us. And it kind of devolved from there into closing out then as opposing bases. Only to realize opposing bases was in the chat and that they could not steal that and claim that as their own. So this then continued with the outro to opposing bases, which aired today, where they closed out as the Midlife Pilot podcast, very briefly. But it's been some shenanigans going on in the podcast world, and people wearing each other's shirts. It's just been a whole thing.
Yeah, I saw during the live stream today that AG was wearing a Midlife Pilot podcast shirt today.
He was, but I think he said he was wearing that for drywalling.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It makes a good drywalling shirt, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have some lowing gangs going on in the chat.
Yeah, what's that about? Why are we throwing the wing gang signs out?
So there's somebody in the live chat that their screen name just shows up as High, H-I-G-H.
Oh, I see what's happening.
They said it's actually supposed to be High Wing, but he shouldn't have put the space in between High and Wing, so he just shows up as High.
It's too good.
Well, based on the cough meds I think the Badger has taken, he also is high tonight. So moving right along.
Yeah, so that gets into what we've been up to lately, and for me, it has not been much because I've been under the weather, and I was hoping to reset my night currency tonight. I stayed off all the meds the last day and a half or so, and still wasn't feeling it tonight, so I'm still not night current, but yay, modern medicine, I get to take drugs again.
Is your NyQuil current?
Yeah, I am very much NyQuil current during the recording of this podcast.
Perfect. This is going to be, and then you countered it with caffeine, I think you said?
With a caffeinated water. Our podcast is not sponsored by these bubblers, but man, these bubbler caffeinated waters are awesome.
Hey, give us a call, bubbler.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
So that's me. What about you guys? What are you up to?
I may have called in sick to work today. And it wasn't only just to watch the Opposing Bases podcast. That it turns out that there is a 10 o'clock in both the Eastern time and the Central time, and they're not the same. So when I went to tune it at 10 o'clock, they were almost over. So not why I called in sick. I'm a little under the weather myself. But on a positive note, I passed my FOI test yesterday. Fundamentals of Instruction, out the door.
Great
All
job,
right.
Jim.
Congrats.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with my results. I got a 96. I studied like crazy for that one, and not just going on Shepherd Air and taking practice tests after practice tests. I actually went through and did a version of an online ground school that I've used in the past. Not sponsored, so not M0A. He is. I don't know. I like his stuff as far as it comes to the ground school stuff, if I'm trying to just refresh on things that I've already covered. So I'm actually working through the rest of the CFI stuff that he has on there to prep for my next written as well. So,
oh, good.
One more written to go. Yeah, I celebrated the passing of that test by immediately coming home and studying.
As one does.
So that brings up, what is Maddie up to?
Not studying. I did, however, sorry, Badger, I did get night current the other day because I had to.
You know, good for you, Maddie.
Yeah.
Thank you. I haven't been night current in a long time. But now that the stuff happened with legal interpretations and stuff, now I have to be, which is fine and understandable, and I should have been.
I thought you were going to say now that stuff happened with the clocks and it gets darker earlier.
That's true. That did happen.
I mean, that was kind of the only reason. My student scheduled a 6 to 8 flight. I'm like, hey, buddy, that's nighttime. So do you want to like wait here while I go fly for a minute or what? He's like, yeah, I got time. I was like, crap, now I have to pay for a half hour of flying. But
hey, you're night current.
I am now night current. Yay. It was very exciting.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Well, one of the new and interesting things that we all are doing is experimenting with this live recording / live streaming while we record. And so if you would like to see us in the flesh, see our beautiful faces, and watch the chaos and madness and total organization that is the recording of the Flying Midwest podcast, there's 2 ways you can do it. Our preferred method, of course, is for you to join us on Patreon and support us there. You do get a couple of extra bonuses as well for joining on Patreon. And then we also have it open to members of our Discord, where in addition to being able to view the live stream of our recordings, you get to join what we consider to be the best regional specific aviation podcast communities there is. And
I'd say the best regional aviation podcast community on the whole internet.
Yes, exactly. And all you have to do to be a part of that is send an email to us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com. We'll send you a link to the Discord, and you can join the conversation. And as you guys heard in the last episode, we are starting more of our solo episodes, but we do get a lot of feedback in the Discord from the community about their thoughts on any given topic.
That part I really liked in our last episode of taking the comments that were made on Discord, weaving them into the conversation of the episode. I think that's going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun in the future.
Yeah, they're not just solo episodes. They're solo episodes with all of our closest friends.
It's the 3 of us and anyone who thought they wanted to talk to us in the chat. I was going to make another podcast shenanigan and say something to the effect of review and announcements, but there are no reviews, but you all can change that. We would love to see some reviews from people. We'll read those on the podcast. And if you want to leave us a rating, that's helpful too in helping to spread the message and connecting with the podcasting algorithms to get us out to more people. So leave us a 5-star rating, leave us a review, and we'll read that on a future episode.
Although we didn't get any new reviews or anything, we did gain some people in the Flying Midwest circle.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, we had a ton of listeners recently.
Yeah, our last solo episode that we did, the Frosty Pilots Only, I love that title, by the way. I can't remember which one of you came up with it, but it's awesome.
You did that.
Oh, it was me? Oh, God.
Great job, Jim.
That was a really great title I came up with. I really loved it. God bless America.
You literally gave me 2 suggestions, said, Andrew, do you like the one? And then picked the other ones.
I thought for some reason that you came up with it, but...
No. I just made the thumbnail.
This is a train wreck. Let's scrap everything I just said. No, I think with the solo episode, I don't know what happened, but we got a lot more listeners, maybe a little bit more reach with that solo format. And we got a bunch more people to join our Facebook community and following us on Instagram. So if any of you are listening, thanks so much for joining the Flying Midwest community. And we look forward to having you on future episodes too.
Jim's being way too modest about this. What he's not saying, but I think is worthy of announcing, is we cracked the top 10 for aviation podcasts in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Have we done that before?
Only once, I think.
I don't know if have we cracked the top 10 before?
I think so. I think we got
20.
to position 9.
Did we?
I thought so. I thought we got to 9 when we did the Carrie McCauley episode, but I
Okay.
could be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as of the
Don't take my
recording
word
of this
for it.
episode, we are at 6th.
What?
So 6. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Top
5,
six.
6.
What? Oh my gosh. Wow.
Number 1 is aviation news talk, which is pretty typical. Number 2 is parallel approaches, I think is what they're called. Oh, opposing bases.
Oh, who are they?
And I can't remember the other ones after that.
Oh.
They're not important.
Yeah, they
number
must
one,
not be
number
very
2,
good.
and then number 6. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and let's be honest for just a second. I don't think we're going to hang out in this spot for long, so we're going to enjoy it while we're here. We're going to
15
toast
seconds of
ourselves, have a couple of drinks in celebration, and then move back to our rifle spot in the 50s.
fame. Oh no, is that where we usually sit? I've never
No.
looked.
We're somewhere between like 50 and 20, and every once in a while we'll be in the teens.
Oh shoot.
We'll be in the teens typically the day after we release for about 7 minutes, I think, and then back down to the 20s.
Yep.
Oof.
So anyways, thank you to all of you, the listeners, for helping us get to that number.
Yeah, seriously, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without the people that are listening. We would have probably given up on this a long time ago, but we appreciate the support that's out there in our community. Thank you, everyone.
We
Thank
love
you.
All right, should we move on to some news and events?
We probably should.
Shall we begin?
Well, events, it's winter, so there really isn't anything. So straight to the news.
Thanks for that. We're going to put the events part of news and events on hold for probably a couple months until spring flying starts back up and there's actually more events to talk about. So,
All right, so then we will start the news in about as organized geographically as our podcast is, with the Indiana Business talking about the Cincinnati Airport, which is, of course, in northern Kentucky, where DHL has broken ground on a new aviation maintenance facility and expanded the apron at their hub at the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, commonly known as Covington. It's a $292 million project that will allow for more efficient repairs and accommodate more aircraft, including what they're saying will be able to house 2 Boeing 777s side by side in a 50-acre complex. The plans were first announced in 2023, and of course, ground was broken this year, and it plans to be done in January of 2026. The expansion is part of a joint venture between DHL Express and their partner, Kalitta Air. So they say that this will translate into faster turnaround times and make the fleet more efficient to handle a growing volume of shipments. Jim, is it Kalitta or Kalitta?
it's the Catalina wine mixer.
God. Sorry. Leave that out.
What? Was that not the right answer?
I don't
That's
think
all I
that's
heard.
ever. I don't think that's ever not the right answer.
It's
true.
always the right answer.
So we have talked a little bit, more like a lot of bit, about sustainable aviation fuels the last couple episodes in our news, and today is no different. So coming from Minnesota, there's a company called DG Fuels, which is a sustainable aviation fuel company. They have announced that they are planning on building a $5 billion plant in the city of Moorhead, also known as Fargo. So the company did a news release that the plant will produce 193 million gallons of zero or low CO2 life cycle emissions of sustainable aviation fuel per year, and plans to bring like 650 jobs to the area. This is going to be a huge plant, so obviously it's not going to be built in a day. They use things that are usually waste. So they have lower value agricultural byproducts that they're using, like corn stover and timber waste. So this is the feedstock for the carbon to make it carbon neutral and all that. So it becomes near zero by using hydrogen feedstock as well. So this process should ideally have little or no environmental emissions, which is kind of crazy considering, you know, the general emissions of coal and other energy sources that we have. That's it. Yay. Sustainable aviation fuel. More next time, probably.
I will say that as I was looking for different ideas for articles and stuff, there is a ton of stuff out there right now on sustainable aviation fuel
Nuts.
across most states in our region. And not only that, but there's articles for Delta and Southwest and some other carriers that are kind of just, it's just really exploded. So
Thank you,
not
Ryan.
literally, figuratively.
Well, I feel like anytime there's a story about the University of North Dakota, I'm the one talking about it, which is fine, and this is no different because we're talking about UND again. But this time an FAA deputy administrator and some of her senior advisors actually visited UND to meet with aerospace leaders and faculty members. While there, they heard talks about FAA workforce grants for K-12 teachers, drone programs, and UND's innovative strategies to help get rid of the air traffic control shortage, which we've talked about in previous episodes. After taking the tours, one of the administrators actually commented, "What can't you do at this school?" Which UND kind of smirkily replied, "Well, not much that we can't do." So obviously the FAA visiting UND highlighted UND in particular for all of the great programs that they have, and rightfully so. UND is kind of synonymous with aerospace education and aviation in general. But I think it's kind of cool that the federal government is looking at the future of aviation students and realizing all the great work that they're doing. And I think this is a positive reflection of not just UND, but aerospace programs around the country. So kudos to the FAA for expanding their horizons and seeing what's going on in the future.
There is a new tilt rotor on the horizon. So Bell Helicopters.
Did you do that on purpose on the horizon?
No. But I'm going to pretend like I did.
Okay.
Bell Helicopters, which is now part of the conglomerate known as Textron, announced that the site selection for the Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft, I'm only saying that once, the FILRA, I'm going to call it, fuselage assembly is selected for Wichita, Kansas. So that's actually going to be at the airport across the street from me. So it's actually going to be an existing facility. If you don't know what this is, you may have seen pictures of it. It looks kind of like somebody strapped a Vision jet onto two tilt rotors. That's kind of what it looks like.
So nothing like a Chinook.
Oh my gosh, it does look like a Chinook.
Oh, does it?
No,
really?
no. It looks like a Black Hawk.
Okay.
It looks like if you put a Black Hawk fuselage on tilt rotors with a V-tail. It's very odd, but it looks kind of cool.
I don't like any of what you just said.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm only the bringer of truth here.
Continue.
So although the entire thing won't be manufactured here in Wichita, the fuselage will be, and then it will go down to Amarillo, Texas for final assembly. So yeah, the AFLRA, I don't know. You know what? Never mind. They changed the thing.
They changed the letters on you.
They changed the letters on me.
We need an aviation.
I know.
More
acronyms.
The AARP.
The weird little helicopter thing, the Not Osprey. How's that? It's a Not Osprey.
Approved.
Thank you. So that's going to ideally create more jobs and things here in Wichita, the air capital of the world. Woohoo! This is actually going to replace a lot of the Army's fleet, and that's a big deal because this particular airframe, and I guess the ones that are coming along with it, it will be incredibly reliable, affordable to maintain, and it will perform well. And now we shall see. Ideally, because the tilt rotor has now been around for a little bit, that technology has since improved, and so they can make something that's actually really reliable and really efficient. This particular aircraft will fly twice as far and twice as fast as the current fleet. Looks like those will soon be starting to be built in Wichita.
All right, and last but not least, we're going to Washington. It doesn't say if it's Washington, D.C. or Washington State. Either one's applicable because we're talking about the FAA and Boeing, where production of the 737 MAX is set to restart. Of course, we all know the issues with the 737 MAX, but they are set to restart manufacturing with what is being described as boosted oversight from the FAA. What does this have to do with the Midwest? Not much, other than, as we all know, I watch ForeFlight, and when I see a MAX flying over my house, I get on the phone and boost my life insurance for a few minutes just to be safe.
And you also sent us a picture to say, hey, there's a MAX flying over my house.
I did, exactly. Obviously, one of the two major manufacturers of the airliners in the U.S. It is an important topic to bring up and talk about, and they fly in the Midwest. So there you go.
I think it counts. It's a big enough story that I think it impacts aviation as a whole across our country that's one worth talking about. So
they get airplanes started shoving out the factories. That's when the job market's going to be picking back up a lot.
Is that all of our news?
That I think is.
I sure hope so.
Dang.
Yeah, we really stumbled over those ones, didn't we? Before we get back into this episode, a quick word from those who make the podcast possible. Guess what, all my aviation friends? Summer has come to a close. We're midway through fall already, and before you know it, it's going to be time for holiday shopping. Well, have I got some ideas for you for your favorite aviator or aviation enthusiast? Starting off with my favorite aviation sunglasses, Flying Eyes Optics. They are the only eyewear designed specifically with pilots in mind. Flying Eyes frames are ultralight, flexible, and you won't even feel them under your headset. Their lenses are top-notch, they cut out the glare, and they protect your eyes from the bright skies. Plus, Flying Eyes offers prescription options for those who need to keep their vision sharp no matter what. Grab a pair this holiday season and use our code FlyingMidwest10 and you will save 10% off your order. Make your flights easier and clearer with Flying Eyes. Next up, let's talk about Lightspeed headsets, perfect for anyone who spends hours in the cockpit. These guys are known for their premium sound and advanced noise reduction, and Lightspeed headsets keep you fully immersed in communication, reducing fatigue on those long flights. I've had my Lightspeed headset for over 10 years and I would not dream of flying with anything else. They are rugged, they're built for comfort, and it's a gift that will keep on giving. By using our affiliate link down in the show notes, you'll also help support the podcast. So this episode features a really big moment for us, which is the return of an interview which Maddie was actually present.
Oh my God. I was actually here for this one. Wow.
However, Badger was mostly not.
I was mostly not. So if you guys remember, I got like 4 hours of sleep combined for the 2 previous nights. And unfortunately, I was there for sure, physically.
Yeah, that's
about
true.
75% of the time. I felt so bad. I was so fatigued. I was physically feeling sick. I had to get out of there for a minute.
That's okay.
But
I was yapping it up. We're good.
I came back stronger than ever. I think I asked another question afterwards.
I'm sure it was a really strong question.
I'm sure it was. Like, what did I miss?
To commemorate this momentous occasion, Maddie, who do we have on this episode?
On this episode of the Flying Midwest podcast, I am extremely excited to announce Marshall Haglund, who is part of the group, a German group who owns a few different historic aircraft types. You may recognize the WACO as part of that, and also Junkers, which have not been made for a very long time. This group is breathing new life into these historic airframes, and we are really excited. Well, I was really excited to talk to him a little bit more about those projects and seeing what the company is all about and what we can expect from them. Welcome, Marshall. Well, welcome everyone to a special episode of the Flying Midwest podcast live at AirVenture. Here we have Marshall Haglund from WACO and Junkers.
Nice.
He is the company pilot and marketing manager. Welcome, Marshall.
Thank you. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it. All right, Marshall, to get us started here, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that we like to call the Fast Five. So just a quick response to each of the questions, and you can elaborate a little bit if you want, but it's the Fast Five, not the Piper Cub Five. So
Got it.
Or the Piper Pacer 5.
Yeah.
That'll come back later.
Question number 1, favorite plane that you've seen at AirVenture?
Ooh, this year?
You know what? I don't think that we need to limit it anytime.
Okay. Spaceship One, AirVenture 2005.
Okay.
Tops.
Yeah.
Question number 2, your opinion, the best kept secret of AirVenture?
That's gotta be, I would consider the camping area to be a quote unquote, like a free display area. It doesn't get any credit, but if you're just wandering, you get to see so many makes and models just in a very condensed space. To me, it's like an air museum on steroids. So, yeah, walking the campgrounds.
That is a great point. I guess I hadn't thought of it that way.
Brilliant.
I mean, obviously you're out there
best
looking at all the
kept secret, yeah.
we're looking at all the planes, but I mean, that's a great way to put it. Question 3, your worst weather experience at AirVenture?
Okay, this is a flying one because I get the opportunity to fly in. I was bringing the Great Lakes in and was transporting it from the southern states up here to Oshkosh, and I was intended for Lansing Airport coming north, and sure enough, between the windmill farms and the ever lowering ceiling and the wall of gray lightning off to my west, I had to divert and head back south, and then I had to just call it quits and go back to the factory and wait it out. So,
How late were you?
A whole day. Yeah. Yep.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Blocks right there.
All right. Question 4. Favorite food or beverage on the grounds?
Oh, it's a good one. The local donut shop out there on the flight line.
Okay.
I forget their name, but they bake fresh donuts every morning.
Yeah, I know
Probably not
where it
Dunkin'.
is. It's not Dunkin'.
No,
Well, now we're going to have to look at it a little bit further, figure out what they're called. All right, and our last question. If you could meet anyone in aviation, dead or alive, who would it be?
I checked one of those boxes both at Sun and Fun this year and Oshkosh this year was John and Martha King.
Okay.
So that was pretty epic. Got to thank them for getting me through some flight training.
Oh, yeah.
But I would just love to probably shake Mr. Burt Rutan's hand. And then I'll throw in a Paul Pobresny for good. Yay, spirit. Yeah.
Maybe you'll get the opportunity with Mr. Rutan this year. So.
Yeah. I saw him on stage at a different one, and he's back here again, so
Yeah.
that would be great.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for playing along with the Fast 5 questions. So just to get into things, for those of our listeners who may not be as familiar with your brands, tell us a little bit about the different brands that are represented here at the show.
Yeah, so we're kind of introducing this concept of the D-More Group, which is our corporate umbrella. And within the D-More Group, there is WACO Aircraft, and also known as WACO Classic. And then Junkers, which is the German brand. And so despite the spelling Junkers, we're using the German traditional pronunciation for that. And WACO also shares a similar heritage because the Weaver Aircraft Company and its founders described it, pronouncing it WACO, so we carry on that tradition as well. Okay. And then the third spoke of the wheel is Centennial Aircraft Services, which is a FAA repair station and a FBO. So we sell fuel, we service aircraft, and the thing that sets us apart, aside from being a authorized Garmin dealer among some other brands, is that we have a strong segment of restoration where we can truly get into vintage aircraft and tube and fabric, stuff that's a little bit lost in a lot of kind of your run-of-the-mill repair stations that are going to work on Cirruses, Cessnas, Vipers, Bonanzas,
For sure.
those mainstream
things.
modern aircraft.
Cool.
Yeah.
So clearly these are not modern aircraft, nor are these modern brands and names. So
Yeah.
could you go a little bit into detail about how this kind of came to be? Why are you still doing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're coming up on nearly a century of when these aircraft were originally conceived. And it's a really unique marriage because, first of all, you had WACO Classic Aircraft, which was doing their thing since 1980s, early 80s. They, I guess they found that one of the type certificates had been forfeited to the public domain from WACO, the original company. What that meant was that they could use the plans and the drawings, and the way the FAA sees it is actually it's like a sort of the whole aircraft is built under a STC, the supplemental type certificate.
Really interesting.
Yeah, because the type certificate can't be owned by any single entity anymore because it belongs in the public domain.
Oh, okay.
But through the STC, the documentation is all there for us to be an OEM builder of that YMF-5, and that's the model designation that is being produced today over and over as a land plane and as a amphibious seaplane. So that's WACO. And then that original design, I think, came on the scene in the 30s. But the WACO brand actually just celebrated their 100th anniversary, and they did a big fly-in down in Troy, Ohio, where the museum is located and where the company was founded originally. And so the brand is a little bit older, but we kind of trace the YMF's heritage into the early 30s. But right alongside that, you've got a Great Lakes. Now, a Great Lakes, the design that we're working off of originated in 1929. So remember that number in your mind. And the Great Lakes, we produce it. We're like a contract or a licensed manufacturer of the Great Lakes, which is also a fabric and tube constructed biplane, open cockpit. It's a bit more sporty and agile because it has a couple handfuls of approved aerobatic maneuvers that it's certified for, including up to 3.5 positive Gs and 1 negative G. All your basic loops and I'm not an aerobatic pilot per se, but yeah, you've got a whole suite of aerobatic maneuvers you can dive into, quite literally. And so,
Well played, sir.
yes. But we build that under license, and we pay a royalty to the owner of that type certificate. And then that brings us over to the Junkers, it's a design. Guess what year it was originally flown?
I was supposed to remember something.
1929.
Yes, you got it. Designed in Germany, and I believe the first flight was in London. But yeah, this gentleman, Hugo Junkers, whose namesake is on the side of the plane, he later in life decided to follow his passion in aeronautical design, and he conceived a few different models, including the A50, which the legend has it that the local flying population dubbed it the Junior because it was just so small compared to what was coming out of the factory at the time. And so the A50 Junior has been reborn, and it fits so nicely in our lineup because we're talking open cockpit, golden age flying machines that are just as fun to fly as they are beautiful sitting still. And that brings us full circle into all three of the aircraft, 4 if you count the seaplane.
So I've never flown in an open cockpit, but in my mind, I imagine it's maybe similar to driving a car versus riding a motorcycle, or is it just way cooler than that because it's an airplane?
It is like that, I would say. If you've driven a motorcycle and you take a turn down a narrow canyon, you feel that temperature difference instantly.
Yeah,
and it cools down, or you drive through a shady spot, and that's the same. These things are not airtight. You've got the holes that are coming up through the different mounting points in the floor, and then the cockpit itself. Although they weren't, it wasn't lost on them to protect themselves from the elements and from just once they're on the ground, and you're pretty snuggled in there. It feels pretty protected, both laterally and then from front on with the glass. So it's less wind than you would expect. It's more the sounds, the feeling of the temperature, and then you're feeling the intensity of the wind, but you're not feeling the wind directly on you or at you.
Sure.
The helmet, though, it's one of those things that looks like you're trying to wear it just to look like an open cockpit pilot. But I've heard enough stories that I won't try it myself. But someone wearing just a normal headset, and you start to adjust in your seat or something, and your head gets just above in the slipstream, and then your headset wants to depart your head, or at least flop backwards, and then you're without a radio.
Yeah, that's not fun at all.
It keeps your headset locked in place, and you keep that chin strap buckled, and off you go.
So obviously, open cockpit seems to be a trend with you guys, which is cool. It's golden age of aviation, like you said. Are you finding that these are extremely popular, or are they popular with certain demographics, or what are you seeing with those?
Yeah, typical buyer is somebody, either they've owned a handful of planes throughout the years, and this has kind of been their dream plane. It's a dream because it's something that they might have seen growing up, and it's really fulfilling that childhood vision of barnstorming and stick and rudder flying. Or it's someone who still has a couple aircraft, 5 or 6 at times, and is just adding to the collection with something that is truly one of a kind. You can only collect so many white glossy aircraft, right? And they all start to look the same. Yeah. So something that has a pop of polished aluminum on the cowling, or it's amazing how much attention just the propeller, just sitting still, people want to go up and they just want to touch that beautiful, wide, tall, slender propeller that's on the front of like a WACO. Yeah.
I found myself in that position yesterday when I walked by. These are beautiful aircraft.
Yeah, tip to tail, right?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
You have the heritage version and just the straight junior version. Mm-hmm. So what is the difference? Why both?
Oh, yeah. Great question. The way that I like to explain it is the junior gave us the ability to execute on the design because it is dimensionally identical to the 1929 model, with enhanced engineering applied in really internally to the wing ribs, the bulkheads, all of the structural elements that could have been reworked in a CAD sense, but still retaining the shell and the silhouette to be essentially identical. But then again, with the devil's in the details, right? You're building an aircraft. You're going through all the work to recreate every shape and curve, and at some point you're constrained, and you want to just get the thing flying, not in a sense of rushing it, but just to get it to market and get the feedback and get the characteristics to be known. And so that's where something like the Rotax played a really excellent role. It's a known quantity. It's a nice round 100 horsepower round number, not the skimpiest of horsepowers. In the original model, it would have been fitted with something in the neighborhood of 50 to 65 horsepower, the early radials that they tested out. So this gives us plenty of room to work with, gives us that turnkey, literally reliability and known quantity. It can be worked on anywhere in the world. We've got these in Brazil, Canada, all over Europe, etc. And so you can use that Rotax engine. You can put on a polycarbonate windscreen, and you can fit it with known Garmin avionics. They plug in and they just work, and they just give you everything you need on a touch panel display.
Super nice.
That gave us that window to go to market, to put out an aircraft that has some recognizable names associated with it. Now that we checked that and got the market feedback, there was this demand. There was this calling for something even more true to the original. It would be like, I always think in my mind, it's akin to like if they did bring back the WACO, but then they fitted it with an injected, horizontally opposed 6-cylinder Centennial or Continental engine. Now, that said, the astute listeners will call me out because the Great Lakes has a Lycoming 0360 power plant, so IO360. But some of that is a nuance that we could talk about at a different time. But essentially, there was this call to recreate it in its more truest form, and there's details, small details throughout. Like one of my favorites is the windscreen has been machined out of aluminum It's aluminum trimmed glass, 2-piece glass windscreen, period accurate, off of the drawings, off the original archival photos and videos. The panel, we won't, as far as I'm aware, we won't even offer it with a Garmin upgrade. It's got to be round gauges. Just because that...
Keep it authentic.
Authentic, exactly. We've done little touches like the wheel covers, the spun aluminum or pressed aluminum spoked wheel covers, kind of the speed kit of the day. And then to top it all off, the Werner from the Czech Republic 7 uniform Scarlet radial engine. It's got that classic radial sound and performance. It's putting out 24 horsepower more than the Rotax. And out front, MT Propeller worked with us to build a wood grain stained propeller with the antique white painted tips. So it just looks vintage just sitting still.
That looks awesome.
And yet we still have that beautiful stainless anti-wear leading edge. So it's really the truest blend of modern meets vintage aesthetic.
Yeah, they're a beautiful aircraft. I mean, like I said, they really caught my eye yesterday, and I just had to come check them out. So what does that certification process look like then? Like, I imagine it's fairly extensive.
It is. LSA carries with it some differences from like a type certificate. Just in my cursory talks with our team, our production team, there are some liberties that make it a little bit easier paperwork-wise, and that's a lot of what's driving this whole LSA movement, this boom, because the shift is happening from standard category to the light sport category, in part due to cost, but cost is driven by production costs. And if we can, if the FAA, and I believe this was their intent, was to reduce the burden on manufacturers for LSA and thereby pass along those overheads and those certification processes. So while it's, I'm sure, something that you and I don't just hope we can get involved with on a daily basis, it doesn't sound like a weekend of fun for me, but I think it is a tad more accessible to achieve for a production company, especially of our size and capacity. Yeah.
So when we're talking about airplanes, everybody wants to know the stats, the performance numbers. What kind of performance?
The A50 Junior has like we said, the 100 horse Rotax IS or 912 IS, and we publish a range on that just shy of 700 nautical miles. We are showing as well that it generally consumes about 4 to 4.5 gallons an hour. The total tank capacity is 27, split between two wing tanks there.
Okay.
You've got useful load right shy of 500 at 480 pounds. So that's a couple folks and your fuel there. Cruising right around 75, and then the stall speed is, I believe, what all light sports are required to publish, which is the 46 knots. And then we're sitting right at that 1,320 max gross weight pounds, which again is dictated under the light sport designation. Yep.
This is purely for curiosity. If, because Mosaic is changing things a little bit with the weight, do you think the Heritage or even the Junior will have an increased load capacity or anything because of those changes?
That's a great question. I will tease it with we're an ever-evolving company with an ever-expanding product line, and we might be busy working on other Mosaic pursuits. And I think, more importantly, I think they both fall nicely. There's really not a big push. Some aircraft I know are really right at the ragged edge of that weight limit. Our demo pilot is I would say an average male, and we've had no problems taking up passengers and all the fuel we need to do the demo rides, and we've got customers already using it all over the world, and so there's not really probably a push for that. But yeah, I see what you're saying about the upcoming changes.
Yeah, I think although it's very popular, I think there will be maybe an increased popularity in light sport of those things, which is the whole point, of course. But yeah, because I was looking at one of those, but me and my dad, we'll have 5 gallons of fuel. So no, we'll be looking forward to seeing what you guys end up with. So what would you say is the typical buyer profile of a Junkers A50?
To describe that would be, we're still seeing that kind of that second, third owner of aircraft. They've had experience with a lot of the legacy brands, or even some of the new up-and-comers, modern aircraft, Pilatus, Cirrus, and they want something to take out in the evening. I equate it so often to just, it's your Porsche convertible, something fun, a Mazda Miata, sporty, open cockpit, gets a lot of tension at the ramp, and but we're seeing that demographic really start to kind of go younger and younger. And that's just because the price point, you're at the $229,000 for the A50 Junior. We're targeting a price at $299,000 for the Heritage model, and that's our most accessible priced product right now. And the Junior, really, the opportunity there is this idea of getting something with a low serial number. That you just never know what the future will bring, and just like good art or good collectible cars, is the ones you want are those low serial numbers. Sure. We also see that people, in fact, we're under a couple of different contracts right now where somebody owns the Junior already, and now they're shopping in the WACO line. They're looking at YMFs and ready to do the deal. And that's just because we've been really pushing the marketing for Junkers because, and you may have picked up on this, WACO is known. It's a known brand. It's an American legacy company, and Junkers is not so much here in the U.S. Or in the Americas. Well, I take that back, because Junkers, we were just in Brazil, and Junkers actually played a role, and they used some of these smaller ones for their shorter mail runs. For the Brazilian government in the 30s and 40s.
Interesting.
So it's actually known in a lot of places, but not in the U.S. That name. Mm-hmm. So we're pushing hard to get that name to be known. Every air show, we want to just have it out front and center, like we've got it here at our booth. And then as people are attracted to that product, they see that we're all one big happy family, and they're like, oh, okay, oh, you're the WACO guys too. Yeah. And then they, of course, wander over, and they can't help but be attracted to the other products.
Yeah.
Can't blame them.
Yeah.
So, go for it.
So speaking of the WACO, how has that evolved over time? Obviously, we've had advances in technology, things like that. So, I mean, even compared to, say, 20, 30 years ago, how has the design evolved with that aircraft?
Yeah, good question. I was sitting down with our engineers over lunch. It was just a couple weeks ago, and talking about we document a lot of our stuff. The marketing team does internally with photography and videography, just to capture the history and the process. And she turns to me and she goes, oh yeah, we got a 3D scan this afternoon if you want to come over and document it. And so we're using the latest technology. What happens is a frame will get welded up in a fixture, just like it's been done for decades.
Sure.
But as it comes out of the fixture, that entire frame from firewall to tail will get 3D scanned essentially, and uploaded into the drive, where they will compare it to the SolidWorks drawing, which is dimensionally perfect.
Yeah.
And they'll do a comparative analysis.
Wow.
It will not only will it do a comparison of every square millimeter of that tube and where it's located in three-dimensional space, but it will also just illuminate instantly if a tab was missed, some weldment or a fixture that got missed in some aspect, because there's a lot of tiny little tabs and little
I suppose.
angles and so
That's really cool.
it's this cutting edge technology that they're using it at Porsche and Bosch and a lot of the big German companies, the most modern that you can think of, and we're a humble boutique aircraft manufacturer, yet the cost of technology has come down enough to where we can apply that accuracy and that technology, and that's just one example.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So I assume there's a sort of quality that your customers come to expect, especially when they get a young person and see, oh, hey, this guy makes effort. This you as the individual, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, this manufacturer also makes WACOs, and they're super cool looking and things like that. So they just kind of expect that and get a quality product.
And we can apply, because we've had Porsche Consulting come through our factory, and we have a relationship there. We can apply. They teach principles. They don't teach how to build an aircraft. They just teach principles of how to manage quality, how to manage production schedules, and so we can absolutely apply that from Junkers, which is a hand riveted product out of aluminum stamped parts, and a welded tube and frame and wood wings and fabric covered airplane. Totally different materials, but we can still tackle it with those well-known and proven productivity strategies and quality measures, like you were saying.
Sure.
In a day and age where years seems like you get a little for a lot. Seems like you guys are still trying to keep those standards high.
We are, and we will never stray away from hand built. The wing shop is one of the places where that's most evident. You know, every square inch of the wood is just meticulously shaved and sanded and fitted and epoxied and stapled and all those steps, and so it's amazing that I can go on a lunch break and I get to walk through the wing shop or down through the metal fabrication area or the final assembly room, and you're seeing these things every day come off the assembly line and get further down. Yeah,
It's gotta be fun to watch.
it's
Just the progression of the
incredible.
whole thing.
And we've invested in paint systems. We've invested in not only quality and documentation, but we've invested in coatings, including a powder coating line for smaller parts like our seat frames and stuff. But yeah, everything as of late, it's kind of come a long way from those early WACO coming out in the 80s. It was a smaller factory. It did not have the quality control aspects. So we're still happy to bring in a 90s WACO or a 2000s WACO, and that will end up at our Centennial side, which is our FAA repair station. But we have access to, it's literally 20 steps away, the WACO factory and the parts room. So you can be assured that any WACO that gets dropped off for any type of work, whether it's replace a floor, replace an instrument, or any small thing, it will be brought up to the standard of today, which is light years ahead.
Wow.
Very cool. All right, so Marshall, you're also a pilot within the brand. So talk a bit about the flight characteristics between the aircraft within the umbrella of the brands.
Sure thing. I'll do a secondhand account of our A50 Junior, just with timing and everything. I haven't been able to get checked out in it, but our sales director was able to go up, and he's a rotorcraft pilot with prior military time, but he also has fixed wing time with his father-in-law and growing up around aviation, and he was able to get that introductory checkout with our factory contract pilot, and he said, man, it's just a dream to fly and to land, which of course that's the critical phase. But the one thing you'll see if you do a side-by-side comparison from the Junior to the Great Lakes is that it's got that vertical strut arrangement, and that allows that shock to really absorb and cushion the touchdown in a way that not a lot of aircraft builders are doing today. Back in the day, it was a much simpler design to execute on, so that's what they did. And but it really just absorbs even the most advanced pilots' hiccups, we'll say.
That is a very, very good way to word that.
But we also have to remember, in 1929, all landings were off-airport landings.
Right.
The asphalt had not been put out there, and so we were all landing on grass and dirt and all the potholes and the gopher holes, and so they built them sturdy, and we're fortunate just to they're still built just as sturdy, but we get to touch down on concrete and modern runway surfaces, so we're really spoiled today. The WACO YMF is she can be a big burly elephant to fly, and that's a compliment because she's real stable and gentle. But you just got to know, how to manage that sight picture and the touchdown point. You can just as easily do kind of a 3-point configuration. Generally, we do kind of a tail low 2-point landing. Okay. And then it's got a fully steerable tail wheel that's tied to the rudder, so you just you transition from controlling the airflow back there with the rudder to once you touch down that tail wheel, now you got full directional control, and you got to just kind of make that mental switch right as it touches down so you don't over control it. Sure. But I transitioned from flying my own Piper Pacer tail dragger and a bunch of time in air tractors, and then a few various other tail draggers, and then the Great Lakes. She's the unsung queen because she's just a dream to fly and land. Something about the Scott tail wheel in the rear and just those vertical arranged struts, just about as effortless as you can make it. And she kind of sits lower down, and a better sight picture. But they're all just fun in different ways.
So it might be picking between your favorite kid, but between between the two that you've flown.
Don't make me say.
Okay, then I won't even.
This is so plain.
Okay.
I mean, can't fault you for that one.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Sitting on a couple of Aeroset amphibs is good in any scenario.
All right.
I got to fly that one here to Oshkosh, so.
Oh, excellent.
All right, so we're done with our formal list of questions here. So, Maddie, I think it's time for your favorite question.
It is time for my favorite question. Marshall, what is your aviation unpopular opinion?
Ooh. That airlines are not the only career path. There's so many job opportunities.
Love that. That's a great answer.
As an airline pilot convert to other things that aren't airlines?
Yeah.
I agree with you.
It's not the end-all, be-all.
Yeah. Great answer.
You can speak to that, right? Yeah.
I can, yeah. I have a bias.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, that was a quick and easy, unpopular opinion.
Yeah, it was very popular here at the Flying Midwest podcast.
Yeah, we're good with it. So, well, Marshall, thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out during the show to talk to us about all the aircraft that you guys have here, and We really appreciate you taking the time.
I'm happy to do it, and it's Midwest to Midwest, so keeping it local.
Love it. All right, thanks so much.
So thank you to Marshall and everyone at the Demore Group for all of your efforts in helping us with this episode. We really loved having you guys on to learn more about these awesome aircraft.
That and those airplanes are really cool to look at.
Oh, they're so cool.
They were so cool. I nerded out looking at those things. I'm like, I want one of these so bad, but money. So
I
won't have one.
I was literally glued. I got an ad for one, and they, like, I don't know why. I was hooked. I was like, I need one of these 850s. I need it. I need it in my life. I don't care. I need it right now. But
they are beautiful aircraft.
They're so lovely.
I don't know another way to explain it. Lots of words beyond that.
It's the historic attention to detail with the modern twist. I think it's really
absolutely
lovely.
That's the thing that really stuck out for me too, the modern avionics and the modern touch to it, but still keeping that historical traditional feel to it.
There you go.
Well, what do we have next?
I'm so glad that you asked. We want to have a continuation of our conversation of winter flying, but instead of talking about your equipment and yourself and all that prep, we're going to talk winter weather specifically on our next episode. So bundle up, get all close to the campfire, and we're going to talk all about flying in winter weather.
So you guys know the drill. Subscribe, follow, join us on our Discord, and if you really like what we do, you can join us over on Patreon, where you can get some exclusive stuff, including access to the live chat as we record these silly things.
Oh, you won't regret it, right, Ryan?
I think Ryan left because I told him to leave.
I think Ryan left.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
Specifically, Tom to leave.
He's still here.
He's still here.
He's still here. All right.
Sorry, Ryan.
Also, don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review, or even if not positive, at least constructive review. And if you leave us a review, we will read it on a future show.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for taking care of those housekeeping things for us. Let's wrap this thing up. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Opposing Bases. I mean, the Midwest Flying, the Midlife Pilot. Word salad.
Pilot's
flight taking off podcast.
Ready for pushback.
All right, all jokes aside, I almost word saladed it again.
There's no way we stay in the top 10 anymore.
Nope, not after this performance. All right, all jokes aside, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Fly Midwest podcast. And until next time.
And all of God's people say,
see ya! See ya! See ya!
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
If you're in the chat, say hi.
anyone in the area, please advise.
Oh, no. Any traffic in the air, advise.
Literally,
There
I
you
heard
go.
somebody say that 3 times yesterday, and I almost passed away.
Do you see where it says Badger there? Welcome in intros.
Calm down, he's busy coughing.
That's me. No, I was really coughing, but then I was also waiting for Jim. Okay. Badger,
That's not how you
welcome in
spell
intro.
Jim, I don't think.
Did you open the show notes at all, or? Frankly, I'm going to try to work in just little nuances of other podcasts in the entire episode. You got to start listening to more aviation podcasts.
Look, you knew about this when I signed up for this. I am not a podcast person. I am only...
Said the aviation podcaster of almost 3 years.
I don't listen. That's the whole point.
That much I know. You don't listen, not just in the podcast.
I listen when you send the blooper reels, though. I do that. Sorry, are you done?
I came back to hear, sorry, are you done? Like, did you guys start fighting when I was gone, or what?
Ryan, get out of here. Whatever.
No, stay, Ryan. Please stay. Don't leave.
Is that your emotional support, Ryan?
Yeah, everyone has one. He's ours.
More group? Is that right?
That's not right. Let me look real quick. You fumbled through some...
Wow.
Did Jim mean to mute himself halfway through talking?
I don't know.
No.
I was like, damn, I don't even get to hear the whole sentence.
It was excited clicking to try to get over to another screen.
Excited clicking.
Ask me the question again. I'll do better this time.
All right. Well, what do we have coming up for next time?
I'm really glad that you asked. Crying out. I was so ready.
Do you need me to ask again?
I don't. I remember the question.